Good morning, guys. What's up? So, here I am with you people today, and we are gonna study the further concepts of the chapter which we were doing in the last class. You remember we were doing something related to the chapter solutions. In the chapter solutions, I was telling you something related to colligative properties. And if my memory is not bad, we discussed two types of colligative properties till our last classes. The very first colligative property was the relative lowering of vapor pressure, right? So for relative lowering of vapor pressure, let me just write something so that you people can recapitulate. So our basic discussion was around colligative properties. And while we studied something related to colligative properties, I told you that we discussed two kinds of colligative properties. The very first colligative property that we had done was RLVP. So this was relative lowering of vapor pressure. Right? So we discussed that when a non-volatile solute was added to a volatile solvent, then there was some lowering of vapor pressure, which we discussed in the entire topic related to relative lowering of vapor pressure. Having discussed this, I told you another thing which is related to elevation in boiling point. And this was also set as ebullioscopy. Right? But when we were discussing these two topics, it was pretty much clear in my mind that in all the cases I am dissolving some non-volatile solute, to a volatile solvent. Right? So our chapter, we cannot proceed further in the chapter if I do not write this particular statement. I mean, day and night I am getting dreams about this particular statement, that I am dissolving salt in water, sugar in water, blah 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 in water, right? So there has to be a non-volatile solute which will be dissolved in volatile solvent. Then only there is any point of considering the details about colligative properties. Right? Now the third colligative property that we have to start up with today is something related to depression in, not, you don't have to get depressed, it's not that bad a topic. So it's depression in freezing point. So what do we actually mean by depression in freezing point? Let me just give you a very simple and a sleek idea. For example, let's say when you have pure water, right, water freezes at 0 degree C, or we simply say ice melts at 0 degree C. So the equilibrium, which is ice solid, is converting into water liquid, or in other words I should have written water liquid is in equilibrium with water solid, right? So this equilibrium is generally established at 0 degree C when the atmospheric pressure is 1 atm or 760 mm of Hg. Okay? So this is normally what we do. You take water, you keep it in a container, keep it in refrigerator, and ice freeze. So water freezes and becomes ice at 0 degree C, right? Now I can't sleep without this particular line, that you have to add a non-volatile solute to a volatile solvent. So suppose now my mind says that let me start adding little amount of salt to water. You know, right, the salty water is also known as brine. And when you are adding salt to water, it actually becomes salt solution, or I can call it as saline water. Right? Now I am asking you to do an experiment, and in that particular experiment what I am asking you to do is take this salty water in a container and try to freeze it. So when I am asking you to freeze the solution of salty water, so what I am asking you is, you have salt water and now I am asking you to bring it at such a temperature that it should start freezing. So this is liquid and this should form salty ice, which is solid. So this is the equilibrium that I want you people to establish. Can you tell me at what temperature should I say that this salt water will be frozen to be in equilibrium with salty ice? Do you think that it should again freeze at 0 degrees C? Or will it be freezing at, like, let's say 1.0 degrees C, or will it be freezing at minus 1.0 degrees C? Right? If you are not able to give me answer to this scientific question, let me ask you the question in another sense. It's winter season, right? And it's 31st is very close, so it must be you can see snowfall if you go to any hilly area, okay? And if you go to in a hilly area where there is snowfall, you do agree, right? The roads will be covered with snow. So let's say you went to Manali or somewhere where snowfall is there and the entire road is covered with snow. And this is your destination, right? And you are standing here. And you could see so many people also standing with you, right? So this is your destination, entire road covered with snow, and now you have to cross the road to reach your destination. What you would do? Your car is there with you, but you can't drive the car because car cannot be driven on a road which is covered by snow or ice. So, do you think, or have you seen people that they will gather salt from outside? So these people will take in salt and they'll try to sprinkle the salt all over the road. So when you will be sprinkling the salt over the entire road, you will see that slowly and steadily the snow or the ice starts melting. Have you done this experiment? I mean, you would have heard people saying that if the road was blocked with snow, you put in some ice and it will start melting. Another common example I can give you regarding what we are going to study today. Like, I remember when I was a kid, there was a refrigerator in our home and it stopped working at some times. So all the other times it stopped working. So in the refrigeration box, the top box which is there was complete ice everywhere. So even we couldn't put an ice tray in that because all over it was covered with ice. So my mom told me that if the entire thing is covered with ice, so this is all ice. So if the entire thing is covered with ice and there is no space to keep anything, so what you do, you again sprinkle some salt. And if you sprinkle some salt, the complete ice will melt. Why? Why is this thing happening? I mean, why on sprinkling salt there will be melting of ice? So let us try to understand this thing, and this is what we are going to study today as the topic, depression in freezing point. Fine? Let's see. You do agree, right? Normally ice melts at 0 degrees C, or I can also say that water freezes at 0 degrees C. right? So when the outside atmospheric temperature is 0 degree C, then I'll say ice will melt or water will freeze at 0 degree C. So other words, I can say that the freezing point of water is 0 degree C. Fine. Now let's say in the same mountain region, when the temperature was 0 degree C, water was available to us in the form of ice, right? Water was available to us in the form of ice. Now if I am saying you are sprinkling some salt onto ice, you could see that now the ice was converted into liquid water. That means I can simply say that on addition of salt, and what was salt? It was a non-volatile solute. So on the addition of a salt which is non-volatile solute, we can simply say that there is a depression in freezing point. That means earlier when water was freezing at 0 degree C, water was available in the form of ice. Now when salt has been sprinkled onto ice, the water does not freeze at 0 degree C. It would have frozen, let's say, at minus 0.8 degree C. But that is for sure that it will not freeze at 0 degree C. That is the reason at 0 degree C, now ice will be in the form of water. So on the addition of a salt which is non-volatile solute, there is a depression in the freezing point, and this is our next colligative property. Fine enough. So this is all about the introduction of next colligative property, which is depression in freezing point. Now let us directly do it the way we have done elevation in boiling point. So now I'll be doing both the two things side by side. It's a repetition of what we have already discussed. Not exactly repetition, but if you will be able to correlate, it is going to be really easy for you guys. So when I was telling you something related to elevation in boiling point, so what was the main criteria when we were talking about elevation in boiling point? So I simply said that when a non-volatile solute was added to a volatile solvent, the boiling point was elevated compared to the normal boiling point. So there was an elevation in BPT boiling point, right? Now if on parallel side I am talking about depression in freezing point, so what can I write when I am talking about depression in freezing point? I'll write the same thing. When a non-volatile solute is added to a volatile solvent, then there was a depression in FPT, right? Same things, all parallel. So these two things are clear to us. Now moving further, there was another parallel thing I can say while we were talking about boiling. And when I said that a non-volatile solute was added to a volatile solvent, I could simply say that the vapor pressure of the solution So boiling point was basically defined as the temperature at which the vapor pressure of the solution becomes equal to the outside atmospheric pressure, to the outside atmospheric pressure. See, from now on things are gonna be very, very important. I am saying when we were defining the boiling point, I simply said that it is the temperature at which the vapor pressure of the solution was becoming equal to outside atmospheric pressure. That means two things were important. So this is the container. The outside atmospheric pressure is 1 atm. So I have some liquid. So liquid is there, and we have added a non-volatile solute to the liquid. So slowly and steadily the vapor pressure was increasing. But when this vapor pressure, which is inside, or the vapor pressure of solution, so P solution, when this value becomes equal to 1 atm, I said that the solution starts boiling. That means when we were talking about boiling, the outside atmospheric pressure was very, very important because it was to be taken into consideration. Am I right? However, if I am talking about depression in freezing point, now see if there is the same thing that I have to write or something else. Again, let me define what is freezing point. So the way I was defining boiling point, now it's my turn to define freezing point. So freezing point is basically defined as the temperature at which the vapor pressure of the solution, same thing, the vapor pressure of the solution. Earlier I said that the vapor pressure of the solution has to become equal to atmospheric pressure. Now I am saying the temperature at which vapor pressure of the solution becomes equal to the vapor pressure of the solid. The newly formed solid that we have, its vapor pressure should be attaining a value which is equal to the vapor pressure of the solution. In the definition of freezing point, the atmosphere doesn't come and play a role. Okay. So while we were defining boiling point, I said that it is the temperature at which the vapor pressure of solution is becoming equal to outside atmospheric pressure. But now I'll say the freezing point is defined as the temperature at which again the vapor pressure of the solution becomes equal to not the atmospheric pressure, but it becomes equal to vapor pressure of the pure solid. Okay. So this is what is the difference in the freezing point. Now listen to me very, very carefully. Suppose I have taken a container and I am keeping, so now you might be thinking, ma'am, how come solids have vapor pressure? So is it easy to accept the fact that solids also will have vapor pressure? I am saying yes. Although the vapor pressure of the solids may be having a very, very less value, but it does have a value. I am not saying that the solids will never have a vapor pressure. For example, if you are considering water solid, that means you are considering ice. Then also ice will be having some appreciable vapor pressure. Consider for example naphthalene balls. They will also be having some value of vapor pressure. So yes, solids do possess some vapor pressure, but maybe the vapor pressure value is really less. Okay. Now moving on further, I will say that, so this is done and even this is done. Now the same explanation goes. For example, for boiling, what did I say? For boiling, I said that this is pure water, outside atmospheric pressure is 1 atm, right? So when I say that you are heating and a time comes when the inside also becomes 1 atm, at that particular temperature, which is 100 degrees C for water, so we say that water starts boiling at 100 degrees C, right? Also, we had done in the same manner that suppose now the same container I have taken in which water is there, but I added some non-volatile solute. Covered it, this is 1 atm again, right? So you are heating. You heated it till a temperature, let us say 100 degrees C, but then also the inside vapor pressure was not 1 atm, let us say it was 0.85 atm. That means you have to heat it a little further. For example, you heated it at 102 degrees C and then the inside pressure becomes 1 atm. So we say that 102 degrees C is the boiling point of solution, right? So see, earlier the solvent or water was boiling at 100 degrees C, now it is boiling at 102 degrees C, so we say that it is elevation in boiling point, right? Let us try to consider the same case for freezing now. So parallelly I am doing, let us consider the same case for freezing. So while I am talking about the freezing, take a container covered with the lid, the outside atmospheric pressure is 1 atm. But I told you, right, there is no point of considering the outside atmospheric pressure when we are talking about freezing. So keep an ice in this container. So keep an ice cube, okay? So this is pure water. Or you could have written water solid. Since it is freezing, I am saying there will be vapors because of ice, right? So this will be the vapor pressure of solid water. This vapor pressure must be some value, right? Now I am saying the time when the vapor pressure of water liquid will become equal to vapor pressure of water solid. So that is the time or that is the temperature at which water freezes. And thus we could say water freezes at 0 degree C. So 0 degree C was the freezing point of water. Am I right? Now if I ask you to continue the thing further, let us say instead of taking pure ice, I am taking the salt solution. So I am taking another container in which I have salty water. That means I have salty ice. So when I am talking about salty ice, again I am covering it with a lid. Outside again is 1 atm, but it is of no use to us. Now suppose the ice that I have taken, now there is non-volatile solute, that means salt is there. So on the surface of ice you can see the non-volatile solute, that is salt, right? So don't you now think that because of the presence of salt onto the surface of ice, the vapor pressure of solid ice decreases further? See, already I was saying that the vapor pressure of ice is less. So this is what I said, no, that ice is solid. So water solid is having really a low value of vapor pressure, but still it is an appreciable amount. Now you are covering the entire surface, not the entire but maximum surface you are covering with non-volatile solute. So then the tendency of this remaining water to get vaporized will be less, right? So the vapor pressure of solid ice will be even more less. Okay. So now do you think that 0 degree C, at 0 degree C, do you think there will be an equilibrium established? No, equilibrium will not be established. So for the establishment of equilibrium, you need to have a temperature lower than 0 degree C. So that is the reason we say that now ice may be freezing at minus 0.5 degrees. Fine. So earlier when pure ice used to freeze at 0 degree C, now for the freezing of ice you need a temperature minus 0.5 degrees C. So we say that there is a depression in the freezing point when a non-volatile solute is added to a volatile solvent. Fine enough? So guys, quickly note it down so that we can continue further about the details. So guys, having done with this much, now we will go on to the mathematical proof. So the way we have drawn, you remember we have drawn a graph for the elevation in boiling point. So in the same way today I will be drawing the graph for the depression in freezing point. Let us try to do the manipulations to the graph so as to finally get a particular formula which can be used for depression in freezing point. See what is to be done. Let me represent the vapor pressure, or I should be drawing it in even and enhanced pattern. So let this represents the vapor pressure and this represents the temperature. In Kelvin, and the vapor pressure can be represented in mm of Hg. Okay. Now see, I am talking about pure solvent. So if I am talking about a pure solvent, let us say the graph will be something like this. So listen carefully. This at this particular temperature, this was the vapor pressure of pure solvent. Pure liquid solvent. Now when I am saying the pure liquid solvent will come in equilibrium with solid solvent, because the solvent freezes out, right, not the solute. Whenever I am talking about a solution, the solvent will freeze out. For example, you have water, liquid. So this is what is pure liquid solvent, right? So when I am saying that this should come in equilibrium, it should be coming in equilibrium with what? It should be coming in equilibrium with water, solid, which is pure solid solvent, right? And the temperature at which they do so, let us call it as T0, right? And the vapor pressure at equilibrium, let me call it a value P0. So look, I will say, so if I am drawing, let this be called as temperature T0 and this pressure will be called as P0. Fine. Now let us prepare a solution. So we have prepared a salt solution, okay, and now I am asking, this is liquid. For its freezing, I am asking that it should be brought in equilibrium with what? See, salt does not freeze out. The freezing will be done only and only with water. So see, it is salt plus water, which is solute plus solvent. And solute plus solvent together, I am calling them to be solution. So I am saying the solution will be brought in equilibrium with water. That means solid solvent. So now I will simply say that the temperature at which vapor pressure of solid solvent will become equal to vapor pressure of solution. Now you do agree, right? At every temperature, the vapor pressure of solution will be less than that of pure solvent. So if the graph for pure solvent was like this, the graph for solution will genuinely be in the downward direction. So let us say something like this. Fine. So this temperature at which the vapor pressure of solid solvent and that of solution number 1 are being same. So this temperature will be T1. This is the freezing point of the solution 1, and now this will be P0. Fine. Moving ahead in the similar way, I can now say for solution number 2, so we have a graph something like this. This is T2 and this was P1 and this is P2. Am I right? Now we will consider the same properties that we have done earlier. I don't know whether you are able to see it properly or not. Consider a triangle ABC and consider a triangle ADE. So ABC, ADE. Consider these two triangles, okay? So since you can see these are similar triangles, what should I be saying now? Since the triangle ABC is similar to triangle ADE, right? I can easily ask you take the ratio of AC by AE. This will be found. So this ratio AC by AE will be found equal to BC by DE. Fine. Now let us move in the same direction to find the value of AC. This AC is what? I need to find this value of AC. So don't you think from 0 to P0 minus P1. So P0 minus P1 will actually give me the value AC. Further to be divided by what is the value of AE? This much portion. So don't you think from here P0 minus P2. So if this one I am subtracting this one, don't you think I will be left with this one only? So it should be P0 minus P2. So can you see on left hand side this is nothing but the change in vapor pressure. This can be written equal to BC. See this BC value, I need to find this value. So don't you think this will be T0 minus T1. Finally, if I ask you to calculate the value of DE, this value. So DE will be T0 minus T2. So this is change in temperature. Right? Now moving further, can I simply say P0 minus P1 to be divided by P0 minus P2. Now if I ask you to multiply it with a negative symbol, so you can simply write it as T1 minus T0 to be divided by T2 minus T0. When I am saying the two ratios are same, I may make it very clear to you that the change in pressure can be written as the change in freezing point. So delta P is directly proportional to delta TF, where delta TF is the change in the freezing point of a solution when a non-volatile solute, or of a solvent when a non-volatile solute is added to it to form a solution. Fine. So we have done in our earlier classes, this is equation number 1. Also from our earlier experience we know relative lowering of vapor pressure is equal to mole fraction of the solute, right? Now consider a very dilute solution. So when you are considering a very dilute solution, you can simply say that this will be equal to number of moles of solute by number of moles of solute plus number of moles of solvent. Am I right? So when I am saying it's a very dilute solution, so number of moles of solvent will be very, very greater than number of moles of solute. Am I right? So I can say delta P over P naught is equal to number of moles of solute divided by number of moles of solvent, right? I can also say delta P is equal to number of moles of solute by number of moles of solvent into P naught, right? Where P naught is the vapor pressure of pure solvent. Now moving further with the derivation, I can easily say, let's work with that equation only. Delta P is written as number of moles of solute to be divided by number of moles of solvent, can be written as given mass of solvent to be divided by molar mass of solvent multiplied by P naught, right? You remember we did the same derivation. I said that molar mass of solvent and P naught, because the solvent is fixed, so its vapor pressure in pure state will be fixed, its molar mass will be fixed. So I can remove this equal to sign, and now I can say delta P is directly proportional to number of moles of solute to be divided by mass of solvent in grams, right? So if I want to multiply it or divide it by a factor of 1000, the proportionality will not change. So now this time it will come in kilograms, right? So what is this? Number of moles of solute by mass of solvent in kg. This is nothing but molality. So we can say delta P is directly proportional to molality. Equation number 1 says delta P is directly proportional to delta TF. Equation number 2 says delta P is directly proportional to M. So don't you think I can write delta TF is directly proportional to M? Or I can say delta TF to remove the proportionality constant. So delta TF is equal to KF into M. And this KF is also known as molar depression constant. And this molar depression constant is also given another name as cryoscopic constant. Fine enough? And if we further study the way we have done earlier, this KF can now be written as, so this KF will now be written as R into TF naught square by 1000 into L watt. So now I am ending up my discussion with this particular thing, that I want you to tell me what should be coming here as L. Just for your reference, I will say that KF could be written similar to KB, and KB was R into TB naught square to be divided by 1000 into LV, and this LV was latent heat of vaporization. Latent heat of vaporization. So what was vaporization? Actually, it was vaporization taking place, right? So vaporization was water liquid was converted into water in the vapor state. So we just considered the forward and we called it latent heat of vaporization, right? For your reference, I am just telling you here, water solid is getting converted into water liquid. Now you think by yourself what is happening, how we can correlate this particular L dash. Try to figure out the answer, and another question, try to figure out the units of KF. So I am giving you two very pretty small questions. One is, what should here be written as? So here it was written as LV. What do you think should be written here? Point number 2, I want you to calculate or tell me what are the units of molar depression constant or cryoscopic constant, which is Kf. Fine. So with this note, I would like to end my discussion here itself, and don't worry, for the next class I will not be directly starting with a new topic. We will have little more discussion about the cryoscopic constant because you are going to give me an answer, right? So for the next class you need to wait, and yes, make sure that the entire derivation should be clear to you because the next class will be started with some question answers related to the same topic. And the question answers are not going to be easy. So I will kill you if you do not answer the question. So make sure you study well. Take care. Bye-bye.